this next one, they're getting to $5.
Chicago didn't really have a punk scene until about 1980. They were a little later than New York, LA. They were obviously London. You know, they were going full on at that point. Effigies were the first really important punk band out of Chicago. Very soon after, you had Naked Raygun, Big Black. You know, I mean, Strike Under was kind of a contemporary, but you had all of a sudden, you had a really cool punk scene, and it just seemed to appear overnight.
Bands didn't wait for other people to do things for them, they did them for themselves.
This was the hardest town to do anything in. We were 20 years behind the times.
Yeah.
It had a really closed mentality.
But it's my home.
It's your home. But see, the bands that were really making money, the bar bands, were out in the suburbs. You know, there were like tribute bands, there were these schlock suburban bands, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Chicago back then was a hard place to play.
They were working for their dad's, you know, heating and air conditioning companies, and they were plumbers, and they were, you know, they were working real jobs. And they were saving their money from those real jobs to go into the studio and make albums. And then they were taking vacation from those jobs to go on tour. And they were doing this out of a sheer labor of love.
You basically had to sink your own money into the band all the time. It was basically a losing venture, you know.
We were really young, and I mean, this is like, you know, this is it, man. This is what you do instead of going to college. Remember, none of us really were in college.
We dropped.
But we did instead.
We
dropped out or quit. I actually proud to say I quit before I got kicked out. But anyway.
In other scenes, there was a kind of an archetype sound that you were expected to do, and while there might be subtle variations on it, they were pretty subtle variations, and it also seemed like there was some competition among bands. And I never got that impression in Chicago. Like, everybody sort of recognized that Naked Raygun and the Effigies and Strike Under were like the popular bands, right? But it wasn't like anybody felt belittled by that.
It's about serving, you know, their community as opposed to like, oh, we got to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. There's very few people think on those terms in Chicago.
The only people you had there, just like today, unfortunately, is just the other bands, you know, and that would be it. But,
We still
you know,
get that, yeah.
And nobody had a problem with that. We were all just having a really good time, and that was maybe the most important part of it. Nobody's just worried about trying to make it big.
No.
Oh, I knew that from day one, before I even started singing. There was something special. You know, I knew that the Dead Boys and punk and specifically punk rock was going to replace heavy metal and hard rock for a lot of people, just like it did for me. And, you know, we thought that was great. Those heavy metal people really felt threatened by it.
Oz was the first real club that just allowed the punk bands basically to do whatever. And you know, Dem, the guy who ran the place, he's constantly struggling. I mean, you'd go walk in there like on a Saturday night, there was nobody there. Eventually, O'Banion's got to that point where nobody cared. I mean, again, punk was effectively dead. All the hipsters, it was passé for them. They didn't want anything to do with it, which is where you start getting that drift back into what's called hardcore. Hardcore, by the way, for the first year or two was like a pejorative. I mean, those guys are hardcore. Like, you know, they haven't got the news yet. It's not cool anymore, you know. But then it became like, yeah, we're hardcore, and then you get that little bit of defiance, and next thing you know, it's like it becomes a whole movement in itself.
I mean, it was really sparse back then. You know, there was no scene, as it were. You know, you felt like you were the only punk you knew, and there couldn't be anyone else like you. You had to go to New York or LA to find punks, but Wax Trax gave all those people a place to find that music and to sort of gather.
Wax Trax was like the nexus for all of these scenes, and depending on what you were susceptible to, you either started a band that was sort of influenced by The Fall, or started a band that was sort of influenced by Throbbing Gristle, or you started a band that was sort of influenced by, you know, Gay disco.
My first band was Strike Under, and that was Chris and Steve Bjorklund and Bob Furum. And we wanted to play out, and there was only like 2 bars to play, Oz and O'Banions, you know. So we talked to the guy at Oz, oh yeah, well, you can play for charge at the door, whatever you want, you keep the door, you know. And well, we need a PA, we'll call this guy. It was Jeff.
I had a little PA that I used to drag around in my Pinto wagon, 3-speed on the floor, brown in color.
Oh man.
Tan interior.
Didn't want to be in that car when Jeff was driving.
And used to set up this little PA. We did everybody from like the Misfits to Dead Kennedys, Toxic Reasons, all the Chicago bands.
It was odd because there weren't like a lot of punk rock clubs at the time. So you would go, you'd be loading your gear, and they'd be playing like, you know, basically disco music, you know, and then you would get up there and they'd introduce you and you'd start playing and the whole floor would just clear.
The experimental nature of being a bohemian young adult in the big city on your own. That plus the culture of the time, which sort of made all avenues open for exploration. That was a primordial soup out of which a band like Naked Raygun could have come.
All the way from Belgium. They speak Belgian.
My brother's always been a big influence on my life. So my brother Mark, who actually started Naked Raygun with Santiago Durango, he's influenced me greatly in you know, not only music but everything he did. I just kind of tagged along, and he liked, you know, one kind of music, so I liked that kind of music. He bought, you know, My Baby Does a Hanky Panky, so we listened to that. Then we listened to the Monkees, and then we listened to eventually we were listening to UFO right before hell broke loose in, you know, 1979.
Marco would be playing some new Freakish Noise record or the new Fall 12-inch.
My brother and Santiago, when they were playing music, I would go down and watch them practice, and then I said, you know, I can sing better than you guys. So Santiago, I used to go to O'Banions all the time, nightclub, and he said to me, you know, you should really cut your hair. So I cut my hair and started singing for them.
Jeff had like this big pompadour.
Well, we played as a three-piece under the name Negro Commando. My brother and I and Santiago, without a drummer, but for one show. And That show was a train wreck.
But I think anyone, if they pick up an instrument and want to play, and even form a band with people who can play,
it's a lot easier.
You're going to create something, even in a short period of time.
The 4 members of the band at the time kind of brainstormed around a name, and my brother, demanded that the name have the word nude in it. I think because he saw a nudie show advertisement down the street right before he got there, like nude, 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 So that changed into the word naked, and then somehow we settled on the word Raygun.
Going to see a Naked Raygun show in 1980, 1981, it wasn't like going to see a normal band playing a set. It was like going to see some kind of a conceptual art performance that just happened to have kick-ass music along with it.
Naked Raygun just did all the wild stuff, wacky.
I mean, we watched Naked Raygun come up. I mean, I don't know how much after they changed their name we saw them, but it was pretty quick, and I remember seeing that one gig at Oz. And I will admit that, they were brilliant that night. I thought absolutely, I'm like, these guys are going somewhere, no question. Next gig you go, man, this is not going anywhere. But I think what it is like they had different lineups, and it was one of these bands that every other time you see them, it's like not happening, right? But every other time, it's absolutely the most brilliant thing you saw.
We played a bunch of shows and really sucked badly for the first 3 years of our career. I mean, the sound was all over the place. We couldn't tell if we were going to be like a surf band or a rockabilly band or a noise band or a punk band or this band or that band.
Chicago is Chicago. It's going to produce bands that, are about the work and the music and the art, and screw all the rest. It's really not a huge concern. It never really has been.
Naked Raygun's most crazy developmental years were kind of undocumented. The first couple of years of Naked Raygun, they went through so many different kinds of sound.
And I think one of the things that was evident about these bands is that it was one step at a time. It was like every little plateau was a surprise. Like, wow, I didn't think we'd make it a year. I didn't think we'd play to 25 people. I didn't think anybody wanted to buy our single.
It attracted people who weren't musicians, who didn't have this sort of idea that they had to pose or look a certain way to be on stage, and people who never would have thought about being in bands.
During the first years, probably the stuff that appears on Basement Screams represents us pretty well because we were so diverse.
It was Jeff and Marco Pizzotti, Santiago, Jim Caleo, and this other dude whose name I can't remember. And I thought it was the most insane thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was instantly, completely, enthralled by this band. They were instantly my favorite band.
The guitar sounded like it was a submarine underwater the whole night, you know.
There was this brutal quality to it that I think was Santiago's doing, because the guitar was just this flattening sheet of sound, just this.
And all he did was pogo up and down the whole night. You know, God bless him, he wrote some great songs, but he was really inconsistent with his sound.
Well, he was a genius, but
He was, but he would just live, it never translated because for whatever reason, he would get out of control up on stage.
one time he showed up wearing a black beret with these blue fuzzy Grover boots up to here. And all he did the whole set was pogo up and down, just bouncing up and down, playing his guitar, and he just went.
Yeah, sometimes he would get up there. It
Full
was
set.
supposed to be like chords. I mean, I knew the songs, and I knew they had chords, but all you would hear was. That was their live show.
That to me is a really refreshing perspective from a musician. It's not about him. It's about this sound, you know. He doesn't particularly care if you're impressed by him. He's just enjoying the sound.
And then over the years, you know, the personnel changes happened, you know, like every 2 years. It wasn't everybody quit at once. It would just, someone would leave and we'd just replace them.
Yeah, we kicked out our other drummer, Bobby Strange was his name, at the Oz show, the third Oz, on the one that was on Hubbard, by trashing his drum set on the last song, and then he thought it was part of the show, so he started wrecking it too. And then we said, "You're kicked out."
So the Effigies were preparing to put out another record, and they got together with Naked Raygun, and this was about the time that the Big Black record was being ready to be put out. And amongst us, we just sort of decided that if we're all three planning on putting out a record, if we put the same label name on the record, and we had the same guy making phone calls to the distributors all the time, then that was just as good as having a record label.
And now we've got this record, except what are we going to do? So we created this label. It's called Ruthless Records, and you know, we made little stickers you stuck on the back of the record on top of the plastic, you know, over the address, because we got a P.O. box in Evanston, famous P.O. box, and we just went, you know, we went from there. I mean, we distributed it and figured out how to get the thing out.
Yeah, it was a
And
complete
just sort of-
DIY
Yeah, we
project.
just helped
Yeah.
each other.
And I was just kind of helping Steve out with Big Black. I didn't write any Big Black songs. He just told me what to play, and I played it. And it was the easiest thing to do in the world, to just play bass for Big Black, because you just regurgitate what Steve shows you.
Initially, it was me playing bass, him playing guitar, and the drum machine, and it wasn't working out too well. I was kind of clumsy, and he wasn't that comfortable playing guitar, so we swapped. He played bass and I played guitar. And after about the second hour of the rehearsal, Santiago came downstairs and he said that the noise that we were making was making it impossible for him to watch the football game. And did we mind if he played with us instead? Instead of being frustrated by not being able to watch the football game, would it be okay if he just played guitar along with us? And I said, well, of course, that's a terrific idea, you know. So suddenly, two of my favorite musicians in the world are playing with me and in my band. Like, how awesome is that?
Basically, it was us, Raygun, and Big Black, and each one of us kind of did something else. But the agreement was that, look, we need to sort of fall under a flag here, because we all were kind of like-minded, and there were no rules, there was no formal company made. It's just that let's just call ourselves Ruthless Records, and sort of like this idea that we're all under, you know, this is what we are, and this is we need mutual cooperation for our own benefit.
As a guy running a record label, I was terrible at running a record label. I couldn't get them any, you know, I didn't do any advertising, I couldn't get them any promotion of any kind, I couldn't get them any gigs.
There was a Chicago sound. It was its own thing. It was its own creation. We are trying not to sound like these other punk scenes. We're not riding anybody's coattails. We're creating our own thing, and that's a harder path to follow. Harder to get signed. You know, it's easier for that A&R guy. Hey, these guys remind me of, you know, that other band that was successful, so I'll try these guys. Well, these guys don't really fit into any niche right now, so I'm gonna take a pass this time. And I think a lot of Chicago bands suffered from that.
The one funny thing was that we would get intern letters from people that wanted to intern for Ruthless Records in LA, which was, of course, the rap label, which I'd never even heard of.
Well, that was
I didn't even know what that
Yeah,
was.
that was after.
That was after what?
Well, that finally explained why we got this package of like NWA videos.
Oh, really?
That one time, I finally handed them off to Albini. I said, I don't know what these are. I don't know why they sent them to us.
Yeah.
Some knucklehead didn't get the proper Ruthless
Right, we
Records.
would get, yeah. Yeah, it was very interesting.
But we were the first.
Yeah, we were.
To them, their world and what the major labels were doing was just like, they couldn't even imagine being on a major label. So they had to create their own world. And as a result of that, they created what we have now, which is a very active underground and an incredibly successful underground. But they were the pioneers. You know, the first wave on the beach, they always get cut down. They're the first ones to get machine gunned down. But they leave the equipment on the beach for the followers to pick it up and, you know, take it forward. So that's what the Chicago bands were like.
Well, Haggerty played sax on Basement Screams because we knew he could play sax, and I believe he was playing with another band at the time. And he joined the band. For a short time, we had 2 guitar players. And then Santiago wanted to leave and phase himself out, so once John took over the reins of guitar.
There was something about the way those two sounds fitted together. There was this sort of a blurry blender noise that Santiago was doing with this kind of really identifiable hard rock sound that John was doing.
My brother left, and we got Camilo Gonzalez. He used to practice in the same space we practiced in on Morgan Street, 222 South Morgan. And he was in a band called The Way Outs, also in a band called Silver Abuse at the time.
I'd hear this bass being played, and I'd look, I'm expecting to see somebody else, but it would be Camilo just tearing it up, you know what I mean?
Jim Caleo was a drummer. A nice guy, but kind of a pain in the ass to be having your band. He was always wanting to write these effeminate, poppy, rhythmic songs. Some of them were good, obviously, like Only in America, and some of them just sucked ass.
The way those guitar riffs intertwined with the drums, and the way the drums were really mechanical but really fluid, and not like Big Black at all, and you know, the way Pizzotti's voice worked rhythmically in that space. And to me, that's the futuristic element of Raygun.
We kind of took the whoa-whoa choruses and the parts of the verses and backup vocals that Santiago had kind of instigated and wrote those into new songs. So we kind of combined John's thing and what Sant had going on, and you know, came up with the songs that you hear on Throb Throb.
Throb Throb, that record to me sounds the most like the band I remember seeing.
If you listen to Throb Throb or something, it's not like you could just like place it in a time or a place if you didn't know,
Yeah,
you know
it's
where
like-
it came from, or
It's like, that's never been the popular sound. Like, that's a crazy sounding album.
You know, they talk about the Chicago sound, and I still don't know what that means, but I do know that it's not the same as anything else, and that maybe that's what it means. It means that each band was unique.
Well,
you know,
we
you had
didn't-
Naked Raygun, Strike Under, the Effigies. You know, they're very different, yet you know they have sort of this thread, this glue that holds them together.
Chicago is so unique because we have this kind of working class attitude on things, but we get overlooked, but we're still going to play music and play it as well as we can.
Naked Raygun had that dirty, kind of hollowed out guitar sound. It just, you sounded like you were, you know, they came deep from within the city.
I still to this day cannot think of anybody in the fucking world that has a better guitar sound than John Haggerty.
The less is more, the less is bigger. It's that whole thing about you can make a bigger impact with 2 notes than 2,700. And it's a lesson that people like Joe Satriani never learned. It's a lesson that a lot of those 60s guitarists never learned. It was like as they got older, it was like more. Look at me, I've learned a few new licks, and with Haggerty it was all about, minimalism and serving the song and making the song better. And I think that's the key.
You go see a band and there's a singer and the singer's getting all the attention. And then it's time for the guitar solo, and the guitarist just sort of like scoots himself up to the front of the stage and it's like, all right, here's my hi mom moment. It's all about me for a while.
They were strange, they were quirky, but they were melodic. They had pop sensibilities.
All those bands were influenced by Naked Raygun, if nothing other than having one part of one song where they would all go, whoa, whoa, Like there was an undeniable influence.
Everyone would sing along with those whoas, those people love that shit.
Well, I used to call us the second best whoa-whoa band in the world, the first being the Misfits. We didn't try to emulate them. I think they were just doing that independently of us. We hadn't even heard of them when we were doing our thing.
But it's like heartfelt, It's different. It's not Hate Breeders, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's something more.
It was very powerful, and all it was were woes. I think that's why I listen to more melody than lyrics.
anybody hears that you're in a band from Chicago, the first thing they bring up is Naked Raygun. It's just, immediately, it's like, oh, you're from Chicago. You like Naked Raygun?
I think you got to put Raygun in the context of all those 80s bands, you know, the Husker Du's and the Minutemens and, you know, Replacements, Effigies, Big Black. I mean, there was a lot of bands that just got written out of the history books, you know, and they were really important because the songwriting was really, really good.
Albini told me, you know, you can get signed by Homestead Records if you just call up Gerard. So we called up Gerard, and he said, yeah, I'll sign you right away.
Deviate had broken up, and I heard that Jim Kaleo quit Naked Raygun. So I think I got Jeff's phone number from somebody, I don't remember who, and I called him up and I said, hey, you know, you looking for a drummer? He goes, yeah, be over here on such and such a day at night or at such a time. And I basically just kept showing up. No one ever really said, yeah, okay, you're in the band. It was just like, I guess no one else asked to be in the band or something, I don't know. No, I never got an official, you're the drummer. I could still be on probation and not know it.
We recruited Eric heavily when I went over and picked up your drum set with you.
It's $5 tied to a string. They just let him down the sidewalk to the practice.
Yes, I did. In my car.
No,
I picked up your drum set.
Okay.
And Eric brought the deeper snare drum sound and more of a rock and roll sound. He could play what Jim played, but he just didn't feel like it. You know, he thought it was a little pansy-ish, I'm sure.
It was kind of that bricklayer, factory worker meets the drum kit sound, and it was really, you know, it was powerful.
When I joined, Naked Raygun was already gaining popularity. They had a lot of good songs already. And so it was easy for me to join.
He came in the middle of All Rise album. We were in the studio doing it when he joined the band, and I actually played bass on that album on Dog at Large and on one other track, I don't recall which song. And then Pierre joined for the next session and finished it off.
He always reminded me of a younger Marlon Brando. I don't know why. Maybe the way he talks. So he came over and he talked about joining the band and you know, knocked some ideas around. And he said, okay, well, I'll show up for practice. And there was this gooseneck lamp on the table. I said, you have to do one more thing. I took the lamp and I held it up so it was shining up on his face. And you have to say, horror, the horror from Apocalypse Now.
He used to get a
Just
lot of money
violate
to
him
do
with
that.
that flashlight.
No, I'm not
Violate
doing
him.
it. Not doing it. Unless I'm like, you're officially kicking me out of the band, or...
No, I'd record equipment for that.
It was like a power tool. This thing was beyond, this is a bass, had been played like a bass for many years before they got to it, but suddenly it just sounded really, you know, it was minimal. It wasn't like they were overplaying. It wasn't this busy John Entwistle style or McCartney melodies or anything like that, but it was really powerful and it was in your face.
Well, All Rise, I had to hurry up and learn half a dozen songs. Well, Jeff had laid some bass lines already, but I had to learn them anyway for a tour. They were going to do a tour. And then we had to hurry up and write some songs, you know, which is always the case. We'd always go in with 4 or 5 songs, you know, trying to get 12, probably end up with 10 or whatever, you know.
We were pretty well rehearsed, did everything in like 1 or 2 takes. We didn't waste a whole lot of time because we didn't have a whole lot of money.
We want to sound unique. I think we really achieved that. And I wish bands that are around these days would take that to heart, because if you do, you end up as good as the Flaming Lips. If you don't, you end up sounding like a regurgitation of Black Flag.
I said, girls, 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 we got all new review. $9.95 for a single leg out, cable app, HBO. Good service, love wrestling, free beer night. This place is called a strip. Spend there forever. Good service.
Raygun fans, the Effigies fans, they sort of fostered that audience that Nirvana got in '91. You know, and so I think that was a really important time in terms of developing that audience and sort of developing the culture's taste for that kind of music. You know, as soon as people heard that music, they go, yeah, this is better than the stuff that we're getting force-fed on MTV and commercial radio. And once it had a chance to see the light of day, it was all over. So you see all these bands now benefiting from what Raygun did.
We put on good shows, and we were popular live, and that was a big thing. And probably didn't translate over into radio or album sales so much.
Yeah, the energy was amazing. It was, and I had seen tons and tons of bands at the Metro, but when Raygun played there, it was like no other. I mean, it was probably the best controlled chaos you've ever witnessed.
The big thing that I remember was old, scary dudes being very violent, just in general.
I never knew about the walls of death until recently. I mean, until like, you know, a year ago. People would talk about the naked Raygun walls of death, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I would hear about people breaking legs, getting heads split open, broken ribs, you know what I mean? Because from where I sit, I can see maybe 3 rows out, and I just see happy faces and people singing with their arms in the air, you know? I didn't know that, you know, 20 feet behind them, it was like, you know, being thrown into a meat grinder.
The Wall of Death, that was a real common buddy over there at the Naked Raygun shows.
That was the first time that I'd been to it, that I went to a gig where I thought, ooh, I don't like that motherfucker at all, you know?
We're 14 years old. How do we get from Des Plaines to the Cabaret Metro? Okay, so we figured out, well, if we take this line, this Dempster bus, all the way to the Skokie Swift, and take the Skokie Swift, what is it, the red line that goes over to Addison. We would go there, we'd watch a show. From there, we would go catch the red line back to Washington downtown, take the blue line all the way back to Rosemont, and then have one of our parents pick us up. And we did that repeatedly.
And I mean, they attracted crazy loose women. They attracted pillheads and queers and arty freaks. And they attracted, like, you know, degenerate thugs as well. It was such a fantastically mixed audience that you had an enormous potential for life-changing experiences at a Naked Raygun show.
It's an immediate sense of knowing something that no one else knows about. It's a sense of pride, like you're in on something. You're in on a secret, but it's an awesome secret. And it almost arms you with a little more confidence, you know? And you're flying a little under the radar, but it feels really kind of dangerous because you just kind of learned about not giving a shit.
And now, if you go to a bar now to see a band, it's, you know, you might see some white hats and some college kids and some fucking backwards hair emo losers, but there's no real intermingling of cultures. You know, they're not actually different kinds of people. They're just, you know, similar people from similar circumstances with different kinds of stupid on them, you know?
In Chicago, it was really like its own phenomena, you know. We had the whole free shit thing going, and that was fun.
So I said, you know what would be really funny? If people are talking about us selling out, we should get $100 bills. And just have Jeff say, yeah, you know, people are talking about us selling out. Yeah, you're right, we did. Here's what it came to, you can have it back. And he whipped 100 singles into the audience.
What an awesome moment that always was at every Raygun show when everyone's like chanting free shit at the top of their lungs, and they drag out the garbage bags and just start tossing stuff out. That's
totally.
such a cool, I don't know, that's like when you really felt like you're part of like the club.
Everyone would chat, you know, free shit, free shit.
I still have the signal flares in my house. I still have the jar opener. And the fly swatter was used a bunch of times, actually. So I've killed flies with that fly swatter.
Naked Raygun official fly crushers with green fly swatters. Yeah, those are neat too.
I had like, how many like books of silver matches that said Naked Raygun did I have? I had the jar opener.
We did combs that said, get a haircut. But my favorite thing is the jar taker offer thing, the rubber jar turner offer that says, get a grip on yourself.
They had everything from combs to, I think, airplanes to whoopee cushions. Did they ever make dildos?
No. The little beer cozy says official Naked Raygun condom. Brilliant.
And tape measures, so you guys can measure how long you are.
I feel a tap on my shoulder. I'm 16. Who the hell do I know at a show? Nobody, you know? And I turn around and it's my mom. My mom is at a Raygun show. I'm like, and she's wearing a dress and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing here? She's like, well, we heard it was a bad area around here, and you know, we just came back from the dinner, and we think you should come with us. I'm like, how'd you even get in? And she's like, well, I told the guy at the door, you know, my son's in there and I have to get him, and they let her in.
There were bands in any local scene that were the you know, king shit of fuck mountain of whatever town you were in, and Naked Raygun were king shit of fuck mountain for a while.
I wrote this song about the Dark Knight Batman series.
So it finally comes to this. Well, everybody looks just like shit. The situation's just a literate mess. Where will the night be when the light grows cold? Electric souls and the sun refuse to show what was he supposed to do? After all, he was a man who knew not to. Bringing home the goods and taking his time. James Gordon saw the sun refuse to shine. When you see his serenade, her apartment was the one that's burned. He runs, the boys gather and they'll think on the dome. One maturity and adrenaline, he gets to pump. Time to turn no voice in the bed. No something left and we're right again. Tonight, the monostone of man of steel falls. James Gordon fights her in his arms. She falls. Got the jail's gone up for grabs. And got them sitting in the out of a job tonight. I never see the right of man of old. Steel, black, water, bats at the helm again. Bats at the helm again. And he runs 'cause he ends up saving the day. Robin's back and there's a girl, she's not so gay. Bats at the helm again. Bats at the helm again. Now he's back. To West Kent. Now he's back. In his right. So it finally comes to this. As we swan dive into the abyss. Is it something we miss? We're shaking, it's fine, yeah, but I gotta go. No one thinks fist slap is up to elbow. And now once I call you my little oblige, just like the ticket on my rugged ride. Just said stay with me, baby, all the things in my life. Fall where I fall, yeah, and climb where I climb. The vision is shown, child, a little homage. Just like the ticket on my rugged ride.
was so dangerous and scary to be there, but that was like exactly the appeal of it too. It was like, if my mom knew I was here, she would fucking shit her pants.
They had just a show. In the original times, you'd go to the shows and they'd have cartoons that came on beforehand, and you'd watch the cartoons before the show started, and then throwing out the free shit. I mean, that is stuff that you ingrain into your everyday persona, going, that's awesome. Those guys are putting on a show, not just playing music.
Pierre's in charge of the free shit. He had the free shit budget.
Your integrity is more important than, how much money you can get out of making a quick career move. And one of the reasons Naked Raygun is still talked about today is they never really did, do the quote-unquote sellout thing.
All Rise was released on Homestead, but that was it. And Gerard Kozloy, I don't know what the agreement was. Either he didn't want us anymore or we wanted to move along or whatever it was. We were gonna, we finally got hooked up with Caroline, but there was this break in between. And we figured, well, why not just release a record ourselves and see what happens? So we did Vanilla Blue, which was Sand Pounder Records, which was just, our label.
But if you specifically listen to Eric's drumming, it's intense. It's great. It just matches the music perfectly.
I think the album that defined them, though, as sort of a true, serious, long-lasting band was probably Jettison. I think that's when, we started having shows at the Metro that were sold out in a matter of moments, and then moving to the Riv and having all of our shows at the Riviera sell out.
Then Pierre came along and hit the band and wrote wrote some good tunes for Jettison, which is great because I weren't running out of ideas at that point.
With the increase in popularity, it was like also an increase in problems. It was, it was weird,
Caroline made us a really good offer, and Gerard Causale was leaving Homestead. So Gerard said, you guys got to look for a label.
Their influence was huge. I mean, musically and just in terms of just an idea of being able to do it,
Oh, there were a lot of benefits of being on Caroline. They had better distribution in Europe because they're owned by Virgin Records. They're part of the Virgin Group. So we got free airfare on Virgin Airlines. We got to lay down on the couches and make out with the stewardesses. No, we never got free airfare on Virgin Airlines. We got to go in a hot air balloon though around the world. No, we never did that either.
Raygun, for whatever reason, didn't get on the road and just live in that van for 2 years. I know that Haggerty has said that was one of his regrets, is that the band didn't go for it.
We should have probably been touring all the time, but we all had day jobs. It's not like we were making money from the music. Certainly not enough to live on,
Let's face it, we didn't tour often enough to be big in other towns. That's why we're not big in other towns. Once people see a live Naked Raygun show, they want to come back.
The more they toured and the more they exposed themselves to other people, the more popular they got. But at the time that they did most of their touring was when they had sort of solidified their style into a certain style of music, rather than in this early period where they were experimenting, where every gig was a completely radical different thing.
Touring, geez. I mean, you're stuck in a van for God knows how many weeks. You go from a van to a stage to one motel room at Motel 6 or something, like that for 24 hours a day for how many weeks? You better make sure you're getting along pretty good, So, I mean, we had a lot of fun, and we screwed around a lot too.
For a long time, John didn't like being touched. He was like real, I don't know if it's a machismo thing or whatever, but he didn't like other guys touching him, which was, hysterical. Just like sit really close to him, you know what I mean, and make sure like that your thighs touched. He would move over, and finally, I would like have him pinned against the wall in the van.
Eric was always a really nice, smiley guy, like always drinking a beer at the front bar. And then,
were you a male prostitute?
Yes.
That's probably.
Are you talking to me?
No, Eric.
Oh.
But now that you mention it, tell us about your male prostitution.
They worked as a team. Good tips.
I met Lou when he was just a young kid, probably not old enough to get into bars yet, and he was just really a big Raygun fan. He's from Blue Island originally. Him and his brother Vince became our t-shirt salesmen after a while. They ran a t-shirt vending booth for us at all of our local shows. And Lou went on a West Coast tour with us once. And Lou's a good guy. He's been very loyal, very honest, and very sincere, and means well. So we keep him around and don't try to eat him.
I think Lou did come on a couple tours because that's where the, turning him into beef jerky in the van.
Eric and Pierre, one of the big things was going from every gas station to gas station. We were picking up beef jerky, all the different kind of jerkies, a lot of jerky out there. So the decision was if things ever got so bad that they couldn't buy their next meal, that they were going to make jerky out of me.
When we were in the van, they would talk about how they were going to eat Lou. They would skin him and eat parts of him and make soup out of him, make beef jerky out of him.
They weren't going to waste anything. They were actually going to use my bone marrow as a gluten for the soup.
The next morning, we filled up the van with gas, which had two 20-gallon tanks. Got on the highway, and within 5 minutes, we just hear this muffled explosion. We decided we better take a look under there, and as soon as we ducked our heads, flames just shot up out of the fucking guy. I mean, and apparently the fireman said the fuel line broke, and the fuel was feeding onto the hot manifold. And then once the fire started, it created a vacuum which basically kept sucking gas out of the tank onto the fire. The thing literally burnt to a crisp. I mean, the metal was, you could touch it, would just break apart. There was nothing left that wasn't metal. And I called Jeff and I said, Jeff, our van burnt down. He said, well, just get it fixed. And put it on a credit card, you know, you'll get reimbursed. I said, no. It took me like 5 tries. Jeff, the van is gone. It no longer exists.
Finally, you said to me, the van is gone. It's burnt. It's toast. As soon as you said toast, I realized, oh.
And plus, we had like 1,000 T-shirts up in those hamburger bins, which was like
Ill-fitted
$4,000 gone. You know.
Okay, remember we played in Austin, and there was this unknown band called the Butthole Surfers who opened for us. And we played to the sound crew and their friends. It was fucking no one showed up.
It made an impact. And, you know, I know that people who saw Raygun loved the band. It was like, they're a great band. There's no doubt about it. It's just that they weren't out there as much as some of these other people.
If I were to be able to go to somebody and say, you know, you've got to hear Naked Raygun, I would grab Understand and be like, listen to the CD first. Check it out. You'll like it.
At first, he was pretty much running things, you know, with the band. And Karen was his girlfriend, and she got, you know, more involved, and then they got married, so he was always pretty much with her. I mean, I got to know him well enough, but his priorities were always more with her, you know. Which I suppose if I was in the same position, I would have been the same way, I guess.
Karen would come to us and say, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to play this show? These guys are asking us for the show. And even me, I would sit there and go, huh? And then the next person would go, what? And then you go down the line, and it was like that, you know. So it was like pulling teeth for her to get us off dead center.
John just got pissed off with the way the band was being managed, mostly. He just had a real problem with Karen. And, you know, when Jeff didn't see things his way, he became pissed off at Jeff.
John had wanted to leave, and, you know, I think I talked him into staying for Understand. I said, look, you know, we got a good thing going. Let's try to keep it going despite the current management.
This next one is me whining about some girl. Imagine that, writing a song about whining about some girl. Hey, this punk rock thing really took off, didn't it?
far as I could tell, we were getting along good. And then, you know, John just said he doesn't want to do it anymore.
I think we had a show coming up, and he said, it's going to be my last show. After that, I quit.
You know, I can't twist your arm. If you want to leave, you leave. He never gave me a reason why. You know, and it was sad to see him go.
It's a tough decision to make. Like I told him, like, hey, you know, the door you leave through is the same door you came in through. It just sticks a little on the way out.
You know, to me it was disappointing, and it was a bummer, but, you know, people had left before.
Well, like him, I just, you know, wasn't wild about the way the band was being managed and other stuff like that. And I talked to him about it, and he actually came over to my apartment. I had an apartment over by Wrigley Field. And he's like, no, dude, you can't quit, you can't quit. So then he turns around and quits.
But then he quit, and then Eric wanted to quit. I said, man, don't quit. Well, we can't replace John. Well, no, we can't actually replace John. But let's see if we can keep doing something.
It was sad to see him go, but, you know, he went on and did his own thing, I guess.
I was going up to see Jeff and the guys, and before I went there, I stopped at Wax Tracks to pick up some stuff, some albums, and in the doorway was the picture of Naked Raygun, the band, and Haggerty's head was missing. It was a big circle, and it said, needed guitar player.
Nobody played with us except for Bill. People did express interest. Jim Ellison from Material Issue talked to me about playing guitar. That, you know, I considered Material Issue to be a talented but wimpy band.
Material Issue, yeah. Yeah, we told him no. You already have a band. And then, you know, his band blew up and to be huge.
And then Jeff came up with, you know, oh yeah, I remember Billy used to play for Product 19, you know, let's call him up, and he was in DC. And he said, sure. And she flew back, and man, he could just get whatever sound you wanted out of that guitar. And he knew all the Naked Raygun songs already, the ones that we had forgotten, you know. And you're like, he'd say, why don't you guys play this song anymore? What song? Oh, that song. Well, we don't want to play that. Matter of fact, we don't even remember how it goes. Well, it goes like this, and he would show us, you know. So it's like, how can you turn a guy like that down?
He knew every song. He already knew every song. He knew every song already.
Bill shows up, and basically, you know, he was asked to play some songs, and Bill's answer was, well, which one do you want me to play? Meaning he could play any song.
What's the bass part? Then he would show me the bass part. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could do that.
Bill's repertoire is every song ever written.
Bill.
Well, and then they would say, no, we don't play that song because it sucks. Then I would think about it, I go, you're right, that song does suck.
You know, one thing I always found odd was the initial phone call. Karen asked how I looked. And I was just kind of fucking around with her. I said I had really long hair and a beard. And she got really nervous.
That switch or that change from the Haggerty to the Bill Stevens days actually wasn't nearly as traumatic as it probably would have been for other bands, just because Bill has an amazing talent and filled that, you know, those big shoes that Haggerty left almost instantaneously.
Well, out of town he was received without notice that anybody was gone. We played Pittsburgh for one of the first shows on the next tour, which is right after Bill joined the band. And somebody came up to me and said, Haggerty really sounded good tonight. And I said, that's not John Haggerty.
Yeah, I just kind of stepped in, and the band was touring behind Understand. Understand had just come out, so the show schedule was pretty busy. And not maybe only a month or so after I was in, we started writing new songs.
We prided ourselves on being like the Buzzcocks and never putting out a crappy song. We were pretty picky about what went on out records. Except for Raygun, Naked Raygun.
Raygun, Naked Raygun could have been a much better record. It was just kind of done like half-assed, and we had the wrong guy in the studio for it. We had, you know, Fluffy, who worked with Ministry a lot. I mean, my heart wasn't really in it, because at that point I knew that was the last record I was, you know, going to be on. So.
Oh, it was a fucking nightmare, man. That's the worst sounding record ever made. The guy who was going to produce it who was the guy who did Understand, like backed out at the last minute. So we ended up working with this guy, Fluffy, right? Keith Auerbach, I think. Nicest guy in the world, but he was Ministry's studio guy. He was our engineer. And I don't think he ever like figured out how to get a sound other than, you know, what he was used to doing, and it just didn't translate at all. And we thought, well, sounds kind of shitty now, but we'll go back and fix it. We'll go back and fix it, and then we couldn't fix it.
I was like starting to niche right. In other words, write songs formulated for the band, which is no fun and sounds like it's done that way.
What happened to that song? Did you redo the lyrics or what?
We recorded that. What song was that?
Oh, you're on.
No.
Was that it?
No.
It's I think it's strange.
We're all one something.
Yeah, that is a bad song.
It was even worse when he had that false.
It was really good with the falsetto bit in there.
It wasn't.
It was genius.
It was not genius.
Okay, tell Arcade Fire that.
I think it's funny because a lot of people dismiss, you know, their last record, you know, because John Haggerty didn't play on it and they don't think it sounds that good. But if you listen to the songs of that record, that song Home is probably hands down one of the best Naked Raygun songs ever written.
I think everybody was just kind of, I don't know, burnt out or just, I don't know, if it just run, maybe it had just run its course.
Well, I think by the time we were doing the Riviera, you know, and selling really well for those shows, I mean, you know, almost selling them out, I guess. Raygun was kind of like the only band left, you know. all the other bands were gone, so we were kind of it.
It just became more work than it was fun, and since we weren't really making any money personally at it, I said, you know what, thanks but no thanks.
I, of course, didn't want them to stop. I think, Pierre probably didn't necessarily want them to stop, but, it was sort of majority rules, and that's what sort of came about.
I was still having fun, but I'd kind of gotten to the point where, well, at some point I could just kind of move on to something else, And I had it in my mind, if Eric ever left, then I was going to go too, so.
I don't know what the fuck happened there, because I didn't expect it to be Naked Raygun's last show. I expected I would leave and I would just be replaced, and they would, probably, do really well after I left. Glad they didn't.
It sort of was a mutual agreement. It wasn't anyone saying, I quit, and then we all quit. It was more of, I think that we've done what we needed to do. The realization is that if they wanted to go to that next level, it would consume a vast amount of their time.
Raygun had never had like their big send-off farewell, big last show. It just kind of sputtered out.
You find out, hey, they're done. They're not playing anymore. There was no bye, farewell, gig, all this stuff. They don't do the victory lap thing in Chicago very well. It's just kind of like we go away.
I just had it with, playing guitar and being in a band, and I didn't even pick up my guitar probably for like 3 years or so.
I felt kind of sorry for him too, because he joined, right before we recorded Raygun, Naked Raygun. And, and things pretty much fell apart after that, so he never got a real chance to prove himself. Because he's a really creative guitar player and a great songwriter.
I don't think there was ever a sense of, the band's over. It's like, okay, we're going to take some time off. Well, that turned out to be, 6, 7 years, and then they did a gig, and, now it's been another 10 years.
In the interim, for some reason, Naked Raygun became this storied band, in Chicago at least. So yeah, the worst thing to do would to sort of reform and really blow.
Well, for our last getting back together, I had heard about Riot Fest originally. I wanted to go, couldn't make it for whatever reason. And I was thinking, I thought, wow, that'd be really fun to play. So I emailed Mike from Riot Fest, and I said, would you be interested in maybe having Naked Raygun play the next one? And he got right back to me. He said, well, hell yeah.
Did you talk to Jeff or Bill? No, not yet. So here Eric making these decisions, but I mean, it was all for the good.
Well, apparently Eric had gone ahead and booked the show without telling anyone.
I got a hold of Jeff, and he said, call me next week. This was right after Memorial Day weekend. Jeff said, call me next week. So I called him next week, and I got his voicemail. And I called him the week after that, and I got his voicemail. And I called him, and I called him, and I called him.
And so Eric was pushing for it, and I kind of wasn't that excited about it, because I thought if Naked Raygun got back together, we should do our own show at our own venue, and then we don't really need the Riot Fest bands to draw people. Not that we could play a place that big by ourselves, but we could play a decent-sized place and we could control it more. And I'm greedy.
A friend of my wife called from Arizona saying that they had seen on the internet some website about something, I have no clue what it was, that Naked Raygun was playing Riot Fest.
Finally, he made an arrangements for him and the rest of the Naked Raygun members to sit down with the guy who runs Riot Fest and let him explain what he had in mind for us at the show and how we would headline and how we were very important and very influential and bigger than we thought we were, and he kissed our ass for a while. And
then I talked to my brother, who had played Riot Fest the year before. I said, what's this Mike guy like? He said, Mike's a straight-up guy. I said, good, that's all I gotta know.
As I was thinking it, Pierre said it. He said, well, where the hell was this guy 15 years ago? And we said, if we keep going, maybe Mike manage us.
I mean, they didn't even ask me. They're like, yeah, you're just our manager. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is the greatest fucking day of my life. This is fucking amazing. And I like played it so fucking cool. I was like, yeah, no problem. I'll fucking handle it. That's cool, you know. But like, there's like a little 8-year-old child in me that's about to jump out of, you know, out of my skin. And I remember going to the dungeon bathroom where they rehearse, and just looking in the mirror and being like, "Fuck yeah!" and like screaming silently.
So now, as a result, we have this suck-ass practice space. It's about 32 degrees below zero. It has no amenities except for a beat-up-ass old couch. It's like the worst fucking PA you've ever heard, instead of my wonderful practice PA.
I knew Jake was in Chicago. Eric said, well, why don't we have Jake come over? I had never met him. Why don't you have Jake, let's call him and see if he'll sing the song. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so he comes one day, let's run through it once, make sure we're on the same page. I mean, I used to play Stiff Little Fingers in my car, you know. They were my band that influenced me.
And I just wrote back and said, yeah, I'd love to do it, let's give it a shot. And then I instantly started panicking and regretting it. Going, hang on, do you want me to play guitar as well?
I was nervous, because we practiced, you know, Suspect Device. We knew the song. We knew the song inside out, but we practiced to make sure we really knew it.
And we started playing the song, and then the voice happens, and you're like, holy shit, that is Jake Burns, and he is standing next to me.
They started singing. Holy crap! It was like Stiff Little Fingers was playing. It was actually stunning. I mean, I'm not easily stunned.
And as soon as he started singing, I got goosebumps. I had like goosebumps on my arms and going up and down my back. Just, I mean, to hear his voice, you know, it was a blast. And we nailed it. And we're like, well, can we do it again? And he's like, well, sure. And we played it again. And then he hung out and had some beer and took off. And after he left, we were like, fuck, that was Jake Burns. How cool was that?
Jeff, you're fired.
Just to be at the practice with him was really something else, you know. That unique voice he has singing in our practice space is just, you know, it's just crazy for me. It gives me goosebumps because I've been listening to that song be sung by him for, you know, 3 decades, and I never thought I would ever meet him, let alone sing with him, let alone perform with him.
You know, when I first got into this music, I listened to bands like the Dead Boys, the Buzzcocks, the Stranglers, Wire. They influenced a whole bunch of other people who influenced everybody else. Hopefully, we've embedded good music in every single town in the United States and the world, and it won't leave for a very long time. That being said, one of the bands that influenced us came out of Ireland called Stiff Little Fingers. It's my great pleasure to introduce the singer of Stiff Little Fingers to sing Suspect Device with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jake Burns.
Fuck off!
How fucking cool is that?
Yeah, all in all, it was a lot of fun. It was a really easy gig as well. One song and out. It was fantastic. You know, none of this playing for an hour and 3/4 nonsense.
I thought people were gonna lose their shit. I saw one guy going, like, they just didn't know what the fuck to do.
When 4,000 people do walk through the door, and it's one after another, after another, after another, it's pretty overwhelming. I think I had goosebumps all night long.
I think the most memorable thing about the whole night, from my point of view, was just the actual warmth of the audience and the bands, and you know how there was no backstage infighting and any of that crap that usually goes on at festivals. You know, no, there was no attempt at one-upmanship. Everybody seemed genuinely to want to help everybody else.
Their fucking guest lists. Oh man, let me. Naked Raygun and their guest list. Oh fuck.
I'm always wondering why there's not more people backstage.
So at Riot Fest, when I got like the 75-person guest list, you know, all of them have to be backstage. It was a fucking zoo.
We played a couple of shows before the Congress show under different names and under different pretenses to kind of make sure we could still play live on a stage, and kind of leaked it conveniently to a number of people. We played at the Subterranean.
So they told me how this story, how they used to go under like different, you know, they do like a small show, but it'd be under not a different name, but it'd be like Naked Raygun translated into another language. And I'm Ukrainian, so I'm like, well, I could translate Naked Raygun. And they're like, well, then we're gonna be Naked Raygun in Ukrainian. Now, there's a little bit of like a translation problem, because the name is Holy Lazarski Nahan. And there's no word for ray gun in Ukrainian, so it's naked laser gun. That's the closest we could come.
The Holy Lazarski MySpace page was just, I almost laughed till I peed my pants. That was just, the immediate response was just hysterical. And the stuff people were putting up, it was just the funniest thing.
People were like sending, you know, pictures of like, you know, Naked Raygun and all this like ethnic like clothing. It was like these like poor villagers and stuff, and sending like pictures of like of cabbage and Polish sausage and stuff. It was great, and people really responded. It took on a life of its own.
People were emailing constantly, adding friends to the MySpace page, and asking all kind of questions. Is this real? Is Naked Raygun really going to play a venue the size of Subterranean?
These people that were there were like the true blue who, you know, saw like, you know, Holy Lazarski Nahane, and were like, okay, there's something's up with that. So they did a little investigation, realized it was Raygun, and only like the truest fans were there, and I think that's what actually made the night.
Oh, I was fucking stoked, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, these songs, like to hear them played by the original band, you know, live was fucking awesome. I mean, I was bummed we're not gonna play any of those songs anymore, like in the bomb, but I mean, I was excited, you know, I was really happy.
That was so wild. That show was like one of our early shows, just with all the stage diving and people going nuts and everybody singing along. That was just a blast.
People were so smashed up against the front of the stage that people that couldn't breathe from being pressed against the front of the stage were now climbing onto the stage and finding refuge there and resting on the stage.
There didn't seem to be any security there whatsoever. That was odd. People just wandering everywhere, wandering into the dressing room. I didn't know who was who.
When they played I Lied, I think people just lost their minds.
Yeah.
Like, people would, I can't take it. Started jumping over the banisters and everything. It was awesome.
You grow up listening to somebody's tunes, and then somehow you end up being in a band with them. It's kind of a mind fuck.
They are the same folk as the people that come to see them. I mean, it's, you know, it's something that we've always tried to do, is just to try and stay on the same level as your audience, and try and you know, not have barriers between the stage and the audience. And I don't mean that in terms of like everybody jump up on the stage or whatever. I mean it in terms of, you know, there's none of that sort of rock star nonsense that goes on.
There's no difference between Raygun and its fans. There's no wall. There's no arbitrary barrier. And I think that was the real thing about punk rock.
It's just so amazing to me that people remembered who we are. We're glad to come back to shows. It's just, it's mind-boggling, actually.
I already figured, well, most people that came see us were about our age, and they're all about their own business now. They probably have kids and careers and whatever. Why should they show up at a club to see us, you know?
Some of the people in that scene weren't always very friendly, so I just envisioned that the people that kind of built it would be even less friendly, but not the case.
And the Chicago bands weren't like that. You know, you just got the sense that these were regular guys, and they're on stage tonight, but tomorrow night they're going to be in the front of the stage jumping up and down. And that's, I think that holds true today. And that's something I think that people have lost. I mean, certainly I don't think Fall Out Boys fans feel that they're regular guys.
Oh, hey, what's going on? You know, it's just like all nice and just like, wow, okay. These aren't like rock stars, you know, like these are just like people hanging out, like playing music.
I said, did the guys at work know you're a Naked Raygun? They're like, I don't think so. What? You don't tell them? Nah, they wouldn't care. Like, how would they not care? I mean, you know, I was just so blown away by their modesty and by, I don't know, man. And afterwards, I was just so thrilled with who they were. They were better than I thought they would be, which is all you can ask for.
Oh, you're Dan Precision. I'm like, wait, this is Eric Spicer recognizing me? What's going on here? And he's like, oh yeah, my son really likes, like, you know, Rise Against and stuff. And it was so weird to see like almost like 3 generations of like people. Like, here's Raygun, who I looked up to, and then here's his son who liked something I was in. It was just really interesting, and it was cool.
I think it was just after I quit the band. I was at Beat Kitchen, and I was sitting there having a beer, and this kid walks in, probably just old enough to get in the bar. He's wearing a Naked Raygun shirt, and he actually sat like 2 stools away from me. I go, hey, how you doing? He looks at me and goes, fine. Okay. I said, you like that band? He's like, well, yeah. I said, you know, I'm the drummer for that band. He said, actually, I'm just wearing it because a friend of mine said they're cool. It's a cool shirt to wear. He didn't give a rat's ass that I was sitting there next to him.
Teenagers have found this band through the internet and, you know, check back with their history in the way that, you know, people found out about Muddy Waters and Willie Dixon through the Rolling Stones. I think a lot of modern day, you know, Blink-182 and Green Day fans, you know, are finding about Naked Raygun through those records, kind of like recognizing, hey, you know, keep hearing these guys getting mentioned in interviews and their songs popping up here and there. So I think it's one of those things where a new generation is discovering those bands, and in some ways they could be more popular than ever. I think their records sell relatively steadily. So it's an indication. I mean, good stuff will hold up over time.
You can listen to their records 20 years later and not realize that you're listening to a 20-year-old record.
If we fit into some sort of, you know, musical history, some pastiche or whatever of rock and roll music that some 14-year-old can latch onto and build from there, that's okay then, you know. But if it's just like some kid like getting on some nostalgia trip, you know, I don't think that's very cool. I mean, then we're no different to him than some guy going to see Foghat at Naperville Rib Fest, you know.
Nostalgia is the most insidious enemy of rock and roll imaginable. You know, if we look at the roots of that word, it was coined during the Napoleonic era to describe a particular sickness of soldiers who suddenly, you know, were from France and they found themselves in Spain. You know, it was literally, it meant soul sick. You know, and it's corrupting.
I have 2 completely conflicting feelings about it. You know, I feel like, man, there's nothing more than in the world that I'd want to hear than a new Naked Raygun record. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to hear a new Naked Raygun record. It's one of those things, you know, it's like very few bands that, you know, were together back in the day and broke up for obvious reasons that get back together like 10 or 15 years later to record a new record, do it right.
Raygun is a similar kind of example of a band that I think didn't really get a fair shake in its time and you know, could have the fire still there to make a really great record.
I think Pierre is a great songwriter. I think Jeff Pizzotti is a great singer. I think, you know, Spicer and Bill Stevens are solid as hell, and I think they're going to come up with something that's going to be good.
I think there's going to be some progression in the new record where you're gonna hear the old Raygun and it's going to be Naked Raygun, but at the same time you're going to be like, wow, they've got some really cool riffs and cool melodies that you could really get into.
I think right now if Naked Raygun came out with an album, there would be no better time.
There's nothing wrong with Naked Raygun now, just because it happens to be 20 years later.
I don't think they would make a new album if they didn't think it was going to be any better.
You listen to those records to this day, and I mean, those records are timeless. You know what I mean? They sound just as fresh today as they did the day they came out. Even shit from like 1985 still sounds like amazing.
It's a fuse that's lit, and it takes a while before it goes off.
I think if you listen to old Naked Raygun records, they're more rewarding than a lot of the records that were around at the time because they're less frozen in time. They're less like everybody else's records, you know.
I think that those Naked Raygun albums, their early records, just are so fucking weird that they just like, there was no point that they fit into what was going on when they came out. They don't fit into what's going on now. So it's like they're exactly, they exist on sort of this same like sort of fringe sort of area, and people that are interested in, you know, in something that's like beyond like what you're just being given.
They're strong songs, you know, and I think they aged well and they still hold up to stuff that's still being put out now.
You know, I knew that once we embedded this punk thing called punk rock into this suburban landscape that is metropolitan Chicago area, it wouldn't leave for 3 decades. And we're in the 3rd decade. It's going to fester out there. It's going to multiply and grow and get smaller and bigger like a virus and bother people for a long time.
It's magical. And it's all our own. It's Chicago to the bone. It's all our fucking own.
Fuck yeah. It's something you never fucking heard before.
It's nothing you're ever gonna hear again either.
I love it because I'm actually on the back of the album. You can actually see my face on the back of the album, which is great. It's this profile right here. That's actually
Yeah. It just kind of made me feel like you have an ability to impact, you know, your own life and the lives of others and the world around you, you know.
We're always broke, so we'd scam like Columbia House, BMG to get money to make it to the shows.
Yep, tickets sub 1992 RIP and regulation flares. Regulation flares.
When we were in our holding cells downtown, waiting for our parents to come pick us up, I started just humming the chorus from I Lie. So it was like just quietly, and then whoever was in the next holding cell, I couldn't see because the cement wall between us, but they picked it up and they started doing it, and then down the whole line of holding cells. So it sounded like this chorus of, I don't know, at least a dozen people.
And I remember getting my head kicked in the show.
The guys all do this really wonderful, fabulous interview with us. And in the middle of the interview, and no one has fessed up to this, someone broke my roommate's heirloom rocking chair. I think it was Pierre. I don't want to name names. But the rocking chair was broken. But my roommate now says she was going to give the rocking chair to her child, but now her inheritance is the fabulous Naked Raygun story, so.
Thanksgiving at the Metro, yeah, and they had a chainsaw and a turkey. It wasn't even cooked. They just chopped it up and they threw it out. And I think that started free shit.
That's what it's all about. This is
more
what it's all
free
about.
shit or what? Cozy.
You better believe it.
Thank you, Eric Spicer, for buying me all these drinks.
Did I steal your seat? You're my seat. Oh, damn it. Get kicked out of his seat.
I'm glad this interview session is on the first floor because when these guys play their show, I had to run up and down those stairs behind the corporate lounge about 140 times. But I do it again and again and again. I love you, Naked Raygun.